My phone started vibrating just as the boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. At first I ignored it. Airports were always chaos. C-mails from work, spam calls, nothing new. But then the vibration didn't stop. It buzzed again, and again. Heavy against my leg like it was trying to warn me, I pulled it out. 6 missed calls. 2 voicemails. 1 text message that made my chest tighten. Sir, this is the county sheriff's office. Your residence has been reported abandoned. Deputies are currently on site. I stopped walking. People streamed past me, families dragging suitcases. Couples arguing about gate numbers. A kid crying over spilled soda, but the world around me blurred. Abandoned? That word didn't make sense. My house wasn't abandoned. It was locked, monitored, insured, and paid off. The utilities were active. The cameras streamed live footage to my phone. I'd left town less than 2 weeks ago. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone had deliberately pulled a lever. They shouldn't have, and whoever it was clearly didn't know how dangerous that move could be. I bought that house 12 years earlier, back when the area was nothing but quiet roads, old oak trees, and wide open property lines. No HOA, no community standards, just land, a deed, and the freedom that came with both. Things changed about 6 years later when Oak Hollow Estates was built a few blocks away. Rows of identical homes. Decorative mailboxes, perfectly trimmed lawns, and of course, an HOA that took itself way too seriously. Their boundaries stopped before it reached my property. That detail mattered more than most people realized. Legally, I wasn't part of their association. Never had been. Never signed anything. Never paid dues. But the HOA president, Karen, never accepted that. Karen believed authority was something you could declare, not something you had to prove. She wore her title like a badge and spoke as if every square inch of land in the neighborhood belonged to her rule book. At first, she tried friendliness, then pressure, then intimidation. I had watched that pattern play out more than once in my line of work, and it never ended well for people like her. Karen's first letter arrived 3 months after she became HOA president. It was cheerful, almost friendly. She invited me to join the HOA voluntarily, explaining how it would benefit property values and maintain neighborhood harmony. I declined. Politely, her second letter wasn't as friendly, it claimed. My fence didn't meet community aesthetic standards. I responded with a copy of my deed and a county zoning map. After that, the tone shifted completely. Emails came weekly. My grass was too tall. My driveway was unsightly. My house looked unoccupied and raised concerns. Time, I replied, the same Wacom, documented. Factual. Karen hated that, because facts didn't bend. She began talking to neighbors instead, telling them my home was probably vacant most of the year, that it was dragging down property values, that I was uncooperative. Slowly, she planted the idea that my house was a problem. And when you convince enough people something is a problem, you can justify almost anything. Karen watched my routine. She noticed when my car was gone longer than usual, when the porch lights stayed off for a few nights, when no one was seen coming or going. That's when she made her move. She filed a report with the county claiming my home had been abandoned, not possibly vacant, not concerning. Abandoned. She said mail was piling up, that weeds were overtaking the yard, that the property posed a safety risk. She even included photographs, carefully framed, cropped to hide the security cameras, taken from angles that avoided the fresh landscaping, timed when the house looked quiet. On paper, paper lies don't survive real inspections. The sheriff's deputies arrived mid-morning. They walked the perimeter, checked the locks, noted the security system stickers, saw motion lights activate as they passed. Nothing about the property matched the report. Still, protocol required documentation. They taped a notice to my door. Karen arrived minutes later, clipboard in hand. She smiled too much, talked too fast, explained how concerned she was for the community. She thought she was watching the first domino fall. She had no idea my flight had landed early. Asterisk Karen was mid-sentence. When my tires rolled into the driveway, she was explaining loudly how she had tried everything to reach me, how the house had clearly been empty for months, how she was just protecting the community. Then she stopped talking. Because the car door opened, I stepped out. Travel bag in one hand, keys in the other. Looking exactly like someone whose house was very much not abandoned. The silence was immediate. One of the deputies turned first. His hand rested casually near his radio. The other deputy glanced from me to Karen, then back to me again, like he was recalculating the entire situation. Karen blinked once. Twice. "You're back," she said. Not hello, not sorry. Just disbelief. Apparently I replied calmly. The deputy nearest the porch looked down at his clipboard, then back at Karen. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "you reported this residence as abandoned." Karen laughed nervously. "Well, he must have just returned. It happens sometimes. People come back briefly." I reached into my pocket and unlocked the front door. The alarm disarmed instantly. A soft beep. Motion lights flicked on inside. The thermostat adjusted itself. Every lie Karen had built collapsed in seconds. The deputies stepped closer. One asked me how long I'd been gone. 12 days, I said. For work. And before that, I live here full time. Karen tried to interrupt. "Shh. But the mail?" "There is no mail," I said, turning slightly so. The deputies could see the locked mailbox. "Everything's electronic." One deputy crouched near the side of the house, pointing at the cameras. "These active?" 24/7, I answered. The look they exchanged told me everything. False reports weren't just annoying. They wasted resources. They triggered unnecessary investigations. And when they were intentional, they carried consequences. Karen's confidence cracked. She started talking faster, explaining more, digging deeper. That's when the sheriff arrived. His SUV pulled up quietly, but the effect was instant. He stepped out. Glanced at the scene, then at me. "Didn't expect to see you back so soon," he said. "Flight changed." I replied. He took the report from the deputy and read it carefully, slowly, line by line. Then he looked up at Karen. "Ma'am," said, "this report states the property has been vacant for several months." Karen nodded eagerly. "Yes, that's what I believed you believed," the sheriff repeated. "Or you knew." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. The sheriff asked Karen to step aside. Neighbors had gathered now. Phones were out. Whispers spread fast. The deputies reviewed timestamps on the photos Karen submitted, compared them to utility records. Camera activity. Maintenance logs. Everything contradicted her claims. Finally, now the sheriff turned back to her. "This is a false report," he said plainly. "And given the documentation, it appears intentional." Now Karen's face drained of color. "I was just trying to help the community, no?" he interrupted. "You were attempting to exert authority you do not have." He warned her formally, explained what would happen if she attempted anything like this again. Then he turned to me. "You want to pursue this further?" I looked at Karen, at the clipboard shaking slightly in her hands, at the neighbors who suddenly realized who the real problem had been all along. "No," I said. "I just want to be left alone." The sheriff nodded. "Then that's what's going to happen." The notice came off my door. The report was withdrawn, and Karen walked back to her house without saying another word. Power isn't something you declare. It isn't something you print on letterhead or shout in meetings. Real authority comes from the land the moment you try to fake it. It turns on you, Karen thought. Silence meant abandonment. She thought absence meant weakness. She was wrong, because sometimes the sheriff comes back early. Asterisk, if you enjoyed this story of HOA abuse, fake authority, and instant karma, make sure to subscribe to the HO Karen Diaries channel for more shocking HOA tales entitled Neighbor Stories and Satisfying Justice. Like, share, and stay tuned. The next story is even crazier.